You might have heard whispers that a simple 1970 Washington quarter could turn an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. Yes, rumors have spread on the internet, through coin groups, and even in casual conversations, that one of these quarters could be worth not hundreds, not thousands, but millions of dollars. Imagine going through your pocket change, finding one of these old coins, and suddenly realizing you could retire instantly. It sounds unbelievable, right? But what's the real story? Could this coin actually be hiding a secret that makes it worth such an enormous fortune? Well, stay with me until the very end, because we're going to explore everything about the 1970 Washington quarter, its design, its history, its different versions, its possible values, and finally, the truth behind the million-dollar rumor. Let's begin with some history. The Washington quarter has a fascinating background. It was first minted in 1932, during the Great Depression, as a way to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The U.S. Treasury decided to issue a new quarter with Washington's portrait, and the winning design came from sculptor John Flanagan. That design, with George Washington's profile on the front and an eagle on the back, would become a staple of American coinage for decades. By 1970, the Washington quarter had already been around for nearly 40 years, and it was as familiar to Americans as the dollar bill. Now, let's take a closer look at the design itself. On the obverse, or front of the coin, you'll see the profile of George Washington facing left. Above his head is the word Liberty. To the left, the motto "In God We Trust" is written. And at the very bottom, you'll see the date, 1970. Simple, bold, and instantly recognizable. Flip the coin to the reverse, and you'll see the proud American bald eagle, wings stretched wide. In its talons, the eagle clutches a bundle of arrows, a symbol of defense and strength, but just beneath them is an olive branch, a symbol of peace. This balance between war and peace was intentional, showing America's readiness to defend itself while still seeking peace. Above the eagle, in small letters, you'll notice the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, which translates to, out of many, one. It represents the idea that the many states together form a single nation. Around the top and bottom edge are the words United States of America and quarter dollar. Now, here's something important: the composition. People often assume old quarters are made of silver. That's true for quarters minted up to 1964. But starting in 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. So, if you're holding a 1970 quarter, it's not silver. Instead, it has a pure copper core, with outer layers made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This gives it a silvery look but without the precious metal content. So, what makes some of these coins worth more than face value? Well, a big factor is condition. A heavily circulated 1970 quarter, the kind that's been through vending machines and cash registers for decades, is usually worth just 25 cents. But an uncirculated coin, one that never entered circulation and still has its original luster, can bring more. Collectors often pay $3 to $10 for a nice uncirculated 1970 quarter. If we go up the ladder, to higher mint state grades like MS-65 or MS-66, the value increases dramatically. At that point, you're talking about coins worth $50, $100, or even $200. And if you find a top-graded specimen, such as MS-67, it could sell for $1,000 or more. That's a huge jump for a coin that originally cost just a quarter. But we're not done. In 1970, quarters were struck at 3 different mints. Philadelphia, which struck coins without a mint mark. Denver, which struck coins with a small D mint mark. And San Francisco, which produced the S mint mark proof coins. The proof coins are especially beautiful. Unlike regular circulation coins, proof coins are struck with polished dies on specially prepared planchets, giving them mirror-like surfaces and sharp, frosted details. A 1970 S-proof quarter is usually worth between $5 and $20, but high-grade examples with strong cameo or deep cameo contrast can bring hundreds of dollars. Now let's talk about the part that fuels those million-dollar rumors: error coins. The 1970 quarter is infamous in the coin world because of one spectacular error: the 1970 S-proof quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter. Somehow, during production, a leftover Canadian coin blank found its way into the minting process. The result was a U.S. Washington quarter design struck over an older Canadian coin. This one-of-a-kind mint error shocked collectors and eventually sold for over $35,000 at auction. That's a mind-blowing number, and it's easy to see how such stories spark wild exaggerations. Other errors from 1970 are also collectible. Off-center strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, or wrong metal strikes can all raise the value. Depending on the severity and rarity of the error, these coins can sell for a few $100s, a few thousand, or in very rare cases, tens of thousands. But here's the big question. Could a 1970 quarter be worth millions? The honest answer is no. No verified 1970 quarter has ever sold for millions of dollars. Most are worth face value. High-grade examples can reach hundreds, occasionally over 1,000. Proofs and cameo proofs are more valuable, and rare error coins like the Canadian strike-through are worth tens of thousands. But millions? That's an exaggeration, a rumor, a misunderstanding of the real market. And yet, that doesn't mean the 1970 quarter isn't special. In fact, it's one of the most fascinating modern quarters precisely because of these stories. It reminds us why coin collecting is so exciting. Every coin has a history, every coin has a story, and sometimes, even an ordinary pocket change coin can turn out to be a hidden treasure. So, the next time you come across a 1970 Washington quarter, don't just pass it by. Look closely at the date, check for a mint mark, examine its condition, and see if there are any unusual features. Who knows? You may not become a millionaire, but you could be holding a coin worth far more than its face value, and at the very least, you'll be holding a little piece of American history in your hand.